Hey, Ute fans, you're watching The Extra Point, brought to you by the Ken Garff University Club and presented by UteFans.net, the original home for Ute fans. Please check us out on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Apple Music, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. So how about that game Thursday night against the Florida Gators? What you guys think?
Welcome back. It's good to be back, and the Florida Gators got stomped in Rice-Eccles Stadium.
College football's back. I think everybody's excited. It's the fall, best time of year. First play of the game. Shot, 70-yard touchdown.
That answered a lot of questions that I had. One of the most exciting home openers that I've been able to witness and be a part of in Rice-Eccles Stadium. It answered a lot of questions, especially what ESPN, extremely poor sports predictions, would say.
Dan Mullen?
Yeah, right? They said Utah is always weak the first game of the year.
Come on, man.
And guess what? We proved them wrong. We absolutely proved them wrong. We came out, we showed that we have depth in all areas. I don't want to go through the people that we were missing.
I think we had 8 starters out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even the people that had to leave, like when Cole
6.
Bishop went out, you had Nate Ritchie step in.
Corrine Reed went out with an injury.
Yep.
Exactly. It was next man up all around, and we did not skip a beat. It was a beautiful thing to witness.
That's the thing. There were a lot of question marks going into this game because we weren't sure who was going to play. And the big question mark since the Rose Bowl was, is Cam Rising going to play this game?
Yeah.
And Bryson Barnes, what a heck of a story he is. Steps in, has an incredible game. Nate Johnson makes the plays on the ground. What do you think of the quarterback play, Jordan?
Yeah, I thought they did exactly what they needed to do to win the game. I think rule number 1 always is take care of the football. They took care of the football. Bryson did an incredible job. The first play of the game, he had a rushing touchdown later on. Nate added a rushing touchdown. They managed the game perfectly. I think if you could go, going into the week knowing they were both going to play, that was about as flawless of a game plan and execution that anybody really could have predicted, in my opinion.
And I just gotta throw out some love to special teams. Special teams was special again.
51-yard field goal.
Phenomenal.
Let's go.
And he barely missed that 55-yarder.
Yeah.
To the point it did make you mad.
Yeah, no,
Like,
totally, 100%.
That's Becker out of Colorado. I believe is where we got him.
And Baumeister, our punter, phenomenal.
Yeah, incredible.
Absolutely phenomenal. JT Greep, when was the last time you complained about a long snap? It's been that long. Our long snapper is solid. Return game, Coach Whittingham and Shaw said need some work, but you know what? We've got the pieces in place.
Yeah.
There's exciting things coming.
I think, too, then you throw in the defense holding an SEC opponent to 13 yards rushing.
13 yards rushing.
I don't care who you're playing. Any team that you can hold to 13 yards rushing with a lot of guys having to step up into roles that they necessarily aren't projected to finish in those roles, right? Down that many starters. Down, 3 defensive linemen, I think, to start the game.
Mm-hmm.
And you hold a team to 13 yards rushing. I mean, I'm sorry, Graham Mertz is not going to win you a lot of football games throwing the ball 44 times a game.
No, he's not.
And Utah made him throw it 44 times a game. Like, that's...
We had 5 sacks.
You make a team one-dimensional like that, and that's always been Utah's MO. But the second you do that, it's tough. It's tough to beat Utah. And especially this team with the amount of talent they have, if you're one-dimensional, you're going to have a tough time beating this team.
Yeah, they've always preached next man up, and that was a perfect example of what it means for next man up. There was not a loss in the stride.
Yep.
We kept snapping. The defense would bend, but did not break, and had huge plays when they needed to. Yeah. Like you mentioned, we had 5 sacks. Ellis had a phenomenal game. He's becoming a monster on that defensive line.
He sealed the victory.
Yes, and when you have more penalty yards than rushing yards, you're not going to win very many games. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So it's not going to get easier for us next week in Waco, Texas. We're going to be taking on Baylor. What do you think about Baylor? Jordan, start with you.
I think I'm just first and foremost interested to see how they look today. They play Texas State, but just to see who they have, how they look. Grimes, the OC from down south, is the play caller over there. He does a lot of unique things on offense, which will always be interesting. And then Dave Aranda's been known for, kind of being a defensive guru. His defense is a little unique. It'll present a fair amount of challenges. First road game. I think it'll be tough. I feel pretty confident going into it, truthfully, especially after watching Thursday night.
It's going to be hot. Triple digit.
It's hot here during camp.
Yeah.
It will make it even hotter if our offense keeps cooking.
Yeah.
Baylor's favored by 24 points today, 24 and a half, excuse me. And they're all, at the end, they're still suffering through a 4-game losing streak. They've got a lot to prove.
Yeah.
I think they're going to look past this team today. They're going to win, but they're going to have it coming to town next week. I prefer the odds, what Whittingham told the Florida coach before the game, of the over-under for the amount of grandchildren he's going to have, before I'd take the over-under or the point spread for Baylor's game today. Much more interesting bet.
We still have some of the same question marks. We have more, arguably, going into this game against Baylor with some injuries on the field in the Florida game. Not sure what the status is on Cam Rising. I heard he's been medically cleared to play, but wouldn't surprise me if Whittingham held off with Rising for a couple of games, but until conference play. What do you think, Jordan?
Yeah, I think having an ACL done 8 months ago is really hard to come back from, personally. I think it's pretty wild that how much optimism there was, and I think that's a little bit of the chess game Kyle likes to play, but it's hard to come back from an ACL. You see it every week in sports. It's really difficult to come back from an ACL, and especially this fast. Now, I know he doesn't necessarily run and jump and cut every single play, but it's still difficult. So it wouldn't surprise me if we don't see Cam for a couple weeks. I don't know anything. I haven't talked to anybody in the program, but from a just pure injury standpoint, it wouldn't surprise me if we don't see him for another 2 or 3 weeks.
That's kind of what I'm expecting, too.
I've got all faith in Kyle. Always have, always will. People get frustrated with the announcement of the injury report, or that it was a game-time decision. It was going to come down to 7 minutes prior, and then the leak started happening that Barnes was going to start, and then there would be a QB rotation. I trust Kyle and the rest of the coaches. What they put on film for Baylor is exactly what we need to keep them on their toes and make them nervous when we go down there next week.
I also don't think this isn't the NFL. You don't have to put out an injury report in college football, so why would you ever?
Precisely.
In my opinion, there's some guys that are very, forthcoming in their injuries, and it's kind of funny to me and interesting. Like, if it's not a rule and you don't have to, why would you? And it was the same when I played, and I was coming back from injuries. It was like, why would I tell the opponent if I'm playing or not? Let them take up a lot of reps and a lot of practice time preparing for both.
So, masterful game plan against Florida. I'm not sure Kyle Whittingham gets enough credit for what he does. Same for Andy Ludwig. And we're going to look to see what we're going to do against the Baylor. Is it the Bears?
Yep.
Baylor Bears next week. And we'll be right back.
It's a community coming together to support University of Utah student athletes. It's our town. It's our team.
Our town, our team. Crimson Collective, I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in.
We're in.
Our town, our team.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in.
Our town, our team.
Crimson Collective, our town, our team.
Hey, Ute fans, you're watching The Extra Point, and we're joined by Mr. Money Parks.
Whoop.
How you doing?
How are you doing, sir?
Doing good.
So, when that first play was called, what were you thinking? That's what everyone wants to know.
It was just to make the play. Dream comes true. Coach gave me the opportunity to make the play, and I did it.
Because you took that to the house.
Correct.
And that doesn't happen a lot on the first play of the game. Right, Jordan Wynn?
I don't know if have we ever scored on the first play?
I was
Yes,
going to
we
ask
have.
all the
Have we?
stat miners at home, comment in the post. When was the last time Utah scored on the first play of the game?
I actually think I know.
You know it?
I'm pretty sure it was 2004.
Okay.
Utah versus Texas A&M. Alex Smith to Steve Savoy. I
First
think it
play
was
of the game?
First play of the game, 82-yard touchdown. Fans, you can challenge me on that, but
check
I'm
that
pretty
one.
sure
Challenge him.
2004 against Texas A&M. So this is the first play in a generation.
Yeah.
That's happened. So
Money, I know Cal's got some Cal Play DB, so that you guys can vibe out over some questions on that. My question, what was a better feeling? Your touchdown against USC in the Pac-12 championship, or this first play Thursday night?
That's a hard one. But I'll say this week because it's my first home touchdown.
Okay.
And it was like in front of the home fans, opening night. Everybody's watching.
Yeah.
It's a great experience.
Barnes mentioned in the post-game conference that you guys had that play scheduled a week and a half before the game.
We did.
You guys have been practicing it. You had a beautiful outside stem on your route to draw the safety away to get that corner, and then Vele ran a beautiful underneath crosser to suck that safety up. When did you know you had that corner beat?
I knew we had them beat once Vele went in motion. It was just like practice. They rotated. Corner played me. It was just like practice.
And they shifted. You noticed it was zone. You pushed that outside, and you turned on the Jets. I got to say, there was a young man named Hawk Hawk Sherman that was sitting in front of me. You are now his favorite player because of that play. Thank you for those wheels. That was exciting to watch and one of the loudest moments I've ever heard this stadium have.
Yeah, it definitely was loud.
I got a couple of questions. So who's faster, you or Nate?
Me. Fastest on the team.
Without
All right,
hesitation.
we answered that
Without
one.
hesitation.
No debate.
And then the name Money. I mean, like, you're personally my favorite player on the team because of that name, and your money on the field, obviously. But why is your name Money? Why do you go by Money?
My father gave me that name when I was a little kid. He said I always took money out of his pocket, so he named me Money.
Oh, that's awesome. Money,
gosh.
what I know when I played, I had favorite route concepts, favorite throws to make. What's your favorite route to run?
I'll say inline dig, post, or vertical.
Okay. Inline dig, like a little in the red zone, back of the pile, back of the end zone.
In toward
Yeah.
14 ends.
Yeah. I like that.
What was the biggest aspect of your game that you wanted to improve over the last offseason?
Just making a better tribute to the team, making more plays for the team, being more reliable for the team.
Being more consistent, being more on the field, and when you got your number called, a la the first play of the game, cashing in on that, pun intended.
What's your favorite memory as a Ute so far?
Favorite memory as a youth, probably my freshman year when Covey ran the punt return here in the stadium. That was
Against
electric.
Oregon?
Sir?
It was against Oregon, right? That
Yeah,
game?
it was.
That was electric. That's what I was trying to figure out. What was louder, your touchdown Thursday night or that punt return from Covey? And I don't know.
We were trying to figure that out.
Both were pretty
I was
pretty
out there
loud.
blocking for Covey.
It was Thursday night.
Was it?
It was Thursday night.
That's what a lot of people have said. That
was
Thursday
Thursday
night
night.
was louder.
It was phenomenal.
It's
Absolutely.
incredible.
Great start to your junior campaign.
Thank you.
I always like to ask players the question, if you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice, your first day on campus here at University of Utah, what would you tell yourself?
Buy in right away. Do the little things. It's going to pay off at the end.
I like that. Buy in right away. That's a good one.
And you go back to the home state next week.
For sure.
And I can tell you're excited. Did you ever think you'd get the chance to play in Texas or in front of family and friends?
I did not think I'd be able to play in front of Texas again. But here's the opportunity.
And college football is constantly changing. I mean, over the last 12 months in itself, it's drastically changed. And NIL coming into the picture. How do you see NIL playing out? I had a chance to look at your wares, and the money shirts are hot. Check them out. They are good. They are very nice. But what do you see? How does NIL benefit the players? We're trying to get the fans to understand the why behind it and the importance of it.
It's just like you putting all your hard work out on the field, and then there's so many fans that look up towards you and like appreciate what you're doing out there, and they want to support you by any means. So like back then you couldn't do this. Now you can get money off your like and images, and so it's a great opportunity for everybody. I think everybody should take advantage of it.
Well put.
This can't be ignored. I have to ask. Pac-12 championship game last year, that 58-yard touchdown reception. Tell us about what happened on that play. You missed, I think you dodged 5 USC Trojans.
I just caught the ball and ran. I was just trying to get a first down, and touchdown came.
Yeah, no kidding.
For
Jordan,
sure.
any questions for Money?
I think the NIL discussion is super interesting. You have the shirts. What do you have any other thing, or is that kind of your main thing right now?
Main thing right now is just shirts, and that's pretty much it.
And where can people get the shirts?
Fanark in the student athletic stores too.
Okay.
And it's linked on your Instagram bio as well.
Instagram.
Right?
Okay.
Yep.
So if you wanna support Money, make sure you find his Instagram and get some Money shirts. We're all gonna have to get some Money
Get that
shirts.
Money
now.
sweatshirt.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go get one.
Sure.
Well, Money, it's been a pleasure having you on.
Thanks
One of
for
the
having
best
me.
players on the squad. You fans will be right back.
The Ken Garff University Club is the new home for elite fine dining on Salt Lake City's east side. Perfect for Utah fans and customers who are looking for great food, specialty wines and drinks, and great views.
Welcome back, Ute fans, and the food is fantastic at the Ken Garff University Club. We're joined by Mr. Kyle Brennan today from the Crimson Collective. How are you doing, Kyle?
Doing great. Glad to be here.
So, first question I want to roll out in this segment, because we're going to talk about NIL, we're going to talk about collectives. What is a collective?
That is a great question. I think a lot of people are kind of struggling with the concept, so I appreciate that you asking that question. A collective is an organization just like the Crimson Club that is set up to raise money for Utah football. And so our particular organization is a 501c3, meaning that you get a tax credit for a donation, and then that money is then used to pay our student athletes. And how they get paid is we have them go work at a charitable organization and do a couple appearances, and then they also go out and do social media posts to bring awareness to that charity. So feel really good about the fact that our student athletes are doing charitable work to receive their pay, unlike some other schools, I think. So proud of that.
Jordan Wynn.
Yeah, I think talk about just the challenges it's created, right? Like when we played, we didn't have any of this.
Right.
How are other schools? How are we going about? How do you even start something like this? Where do we go?
Yeah, it's a great question. I bet you wish you would have had this.
I
when you were
wish.
playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole new wrinkle to athletics, and it's got locker room implications. It's got tax implications for these young men. They have to get representation, some of them through an agent. So they're dealing with the whole business side of sports, which they haven't been dealing with in the past. Usually, you come to school as a student athlete, and the school takes care of you.
Sure.
But now you got to look out for yourself.
Yeah.
You're your own brand. You're your own entity, and so. These young men do a great job of kind of putting themselves out there in a great way on social media and bringing attention in a positive way to themselves and to the university. And they're realizing that their brand starts now, not when they get to the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to start on that brand right when you get in college, and so we're helping them do that.
Now, the NIL concerns challenges and the collective challenges are somewhat like education, where you're expected to invent the airplane while flying it. You're feeling your way through the dark.
That's how it feels.
Yeah, and we appreciate your efforts. There's a lot of people out there that don't understand why athletes need more money.
Yeah. Well, that's a great question because, Jordan's a great example, I think. When he was in college, that scholarship check was not very big.
No, it was not.
and to cover all those expenses that you have as a young man in this city, the scholarship doesn't go that far. And so this is a really good opportunity, not just for student athletes to have some of the extra things, but, we have a lot of student athletes. 70% of our football team is on Pell, which means that they need financial assistance, right?
That's Pell Grants.
Pell Grants, for those who don't know, and that's based on need. And so they're able to get some money, not just for themselves, but also to help their families back home, which I think is really important.
I think that's a huge talking point to your question, right? I think, as Kyle mentioned, scholarship checks weren't a whole lot back when I played. I was on a Pell Grant, and even that is, it's a couple extra bucks, but it doesn't go that far. And Utah's a great economy, and we have a great cost of living here, but it still was challenging. I mean, I think that was always my big thing when I played was we're running out of the tunnel with this many people here to, paying to come watch us play, and I'm cashing a, $800 scholarship check and wondering what I'm going to eat and how I'm going to pay rent and how I'm going to pay car insurance and a phone bill. And so it's obviously a challenge. It's created a lot of challenge for the landscape of sports. But I think any former athlete would attest it was probably a long time coming. Yeah. I think the scale tipped way the other way in terms of just floodgates were opened.
Well, and they are inventing it. They are,
like you said,
building the airplane
yes.
as they're inventing
Yeah.
it. And NIL stemmed from the Charles O'Bannon case against UCLA when he sued them for using his name and image and likeness. That's the NIL acronym, and won because the courts decided that it was unfair for people to make money off of the name and the likeness of athletes. We were in NCAA football.
Yep.
And it was a big deal back then just to be on the game. But then when you look at the big picture of how much money is not trickling down to the benefit of the players, a lot of people see that as maybe greedy, but it's not in the end because it boils down to what you're earning and what you're getting out of that investment. And so with that in mind, now the NIL has taken the forefront. It's much different than it was when we were kids. Mm-hmm. NIL has now taken the forefront as a recruiting tool or a necessity, especially with the dissolution or the dissolving of the Pac-12, because being an academic institution, a research institution within the Pac-12 was our moniker. Right. That was the power of the Pac-12, and now that has literally dissolved. So NIL is going to be, instead of dangling that academic research facility carrot in front of recruits, it's NIL opportunities that are making kids jump ship and decommit in a heartbeat just because they see the well-being and the welfare of their family being improved immediately.
Yeah, that's a great point because, if you as an adult, if someone put to you, you get this job for $100,000 or that job for $200,000, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You're going to take the job for $200,000, right? And so while football recruiting isn't that exact, there are other factors that go into it. Money is now a big part of that. And so we got to have our best foot forward when we go out and recruit, because there's a lot of competition out there. And the piece that's so different now, too, is you got to recruit your own players. The transfer portal has changed everything. So a student athlete can now, if they have a great season, all of a sudden there's other schools calling and that value goes up. So it's a different ballgame from that perspective. But, as long as we get out in front of it here at the University of Utah, I think we're going to be all right, which is why I'm, so glad that the Garf started this collective, because it's so needed, especially as we go into the Big 12. I think when we look at the Big 12, the average fan will think we have more chance to win this conference than maybe the Pac-12, which is great. But at the end of the day, that conference probably isn't going to be here forever either.
Yeah.
We think there's going to be 2 super conferences someday.
It's true.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to be winning at the time that those selections are made. And if we, in order to win in that short 3 to 5 year window, we've got to be great at NIL.
And what drives the attraction for the super conferences isn't necessarily win-loss or product or production power of product. It's how much of the fan base, how much TV share and everything is going to pour into that. It's a big money game.
Yes.
And student athletes are unfortunately turning into business athletes. And there's nothing wrong with that from your standpoint. But like you mentioned, and we're trying to tread lightly over, the game is quickly changing into something that we hardly recognize.
Yeah, I think, too, just to add in another wrinkle, right? Like, guys in the NFL, that's their job. That's all that they do, right, is play football. They have time to sit and take a business meeting. As a 19-year-old, you're still trying to get a degree. You're figuring out life, and now you throw this wrinkle in. Like, I couldn't even imagine trying to figure this. I mean, I'd have to hire somebody, right, to do this for me. I'd have to outsource this, and hopefully it's a good person.
Yeah, the time demands is a real big issue.
Yeah.
It's not something we're requiring of these kids. It's something they want to do because they need to get paid. But it is another thing on top of it. And as being a student athlete, you have to do a lot of promotions for the athletic department.
Yep.
You got to go to a lot of fundraising events. You got to go to this dinner. You got to go to that meeting for compliance or whatever it is. And then you've got your studies and everything on top of it.
Yeah.
So it's added a whole new wrinkle in as far as time management and figuring out fiscal management.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got some people teaching these young men financial literacy stuff, but understanding what credit is, understanding what taxes are. When you get paid, you're going to have to hold some of this back because you're going to have to pay taxes at the end, right? Your scholarship check wasn't taxed.
Right.
So
right.
It's something that I think is creates some difficulty, but at the same time is really helping these guys grow into great young men.
How many dinners at Tony Roma's in Charlie Square did you have to turn down because it was against the rules? And now they're trying to find ways to put some money in the pockets. And I appreciate you mentioning the fact that you guys are supporting them in all aspects that NIL can impact them. They are still our student athletes. And the family collective, the feeling amongst Utah football, Utah athletics within the Crimson Club feeds into that.
Correct.
And that's what we're doing here. Our why is to promote the University Athletic Department in connection with the Crimson Collective and the Crimson Club and the Athletic Department to make sure we're empowering these athletes for not only today and tomorrow, but for life after laces.
Yeah, no, well said.
Yeah, and that's why I'm really proud of how this collective gets these young men working with charities and doing community service. I mean, there are some collectives out there that just bring in the money and pay the student athlete. And I think it's important for these young men to grow as people. I mean, every time I know any of us has probably done community service, you come out feeling great. Right?
Yep.
So they grow as people. It's something they can put on their resume as they go forward in life, and that's really helpful too. So it's important, I think, that we try and still shepherd these young men as they grow. This is a business.
Yeah.
They're getting treated more like a business, but we got to remember they're still 18 to 22-year-olds, like Jordan said.
Thank you.
One more question for Kyle. How can we best support the collective as fans?
Yeah, the best way to support is go to crimsoncollective.org. There's a donate now button there. You can donate $5 a month up into $5 million. So whatever makes you feel good, we'd love to have your support. crimsoncollective.org.
All right, Ute fans, we'll be right back. UteFans.net would like to take a moment to recognize the loss of one of our own, Phil Bailey, who was a poster on our beloved message board. Phil passed away while snorkeling in Hawaii in August and leaves behind a wife and 3 children. You can donate to a GoFundMe created for his family at www.gofundme.com. Rest in peace, Phil. We will miss you. Hey, Ute fans. Thanks for watching another episode of The Extra Point. Check us out on iHeartRadio, Apple Music, and Spotify, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out our next podcast after the Baylor game, and go Utes.